It's our season finale. What better episode to talk about our favorite sitcom of all time, Cheers? And how could we dedicate an entire episode to Cheers and not invite our buddy Joe Clemente to contribute to the most important show of our early 20s?
Season finale, Joe. You are the first three-time guest, and I think well, no, we may have had a guest on the season finale inadvertently because we don't know how to schedule shit. But you're our first intentional season finale guest.
Truly an honor. I know what it feels like to win an Oscar or an Emmy. That's right up
It,
there with that, I'm
it's
sure.
exactly the same. Yes, yes.
Did you? Be sure and thank all your family and friends and everyone when you're done with this.
They didn't do anything. It's all me.
A little peek behind the curtain. This is the other odd thing about recording this episode with you is that your last episode just dropped this week.
Yes.
So I have it's kind of a superstitious thing, but I always listen to the episode on Spotify after it comes out officially, even though I've listened to it like 3 or 4 times to edit. So I just recently heard your voice in the last episode, and now you're back. It's like you never left.
Yeah, I told Lisa yesterday, I was like, I'm taping another episode. She said, when? I said, tomorrow. She said, that's odd. And I was like, yeah, it kind of is, but it's just kind of how the schedule worked out. So happy to be here and glad I was able to squeeze it in.
Well, and one of the reasons you're here is because I'm pretty sure you planted the idea. I don't know if you planted the idea of the Cheers episode. Again, I'm not sure intentionally, but I know as soon as Chris and I started talking about it, we were like, well, we got to have Joe on for this because we probably watched, I would venture to say that we watched the TV show Cheers together, the three of us. We've seen every episode watching it together in the same room.
Oh, without a doubt.
And we've done like every other event while we're watching it. Pop a shot, probably video games,
Yes, lots of
arguing
Tetris.
about arguing about sports, Tetris,
Drinking.
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 Yeah, how can I forget that?
I do remember when we lived in a small apartment in off of Syracuse in University City, and we at one point we had a setup where we had a television on the top of a cheap wooden entertainment center, and then underneath it there was a cabinet, and we had a tiny little TV, color TV that was inside the cabinet, and we would watch Cheers because it was syndicated. It came on at what, 10, I think, 10 o'clock every night in St. Louis for years.
Right.
And invariably, two of us would be sitting on the couch watching the show, and the third person would be laying on the floor with a pillow behind him, playing Tetris on the small TV while we watch Cheers on the big TV.
Yeah, it was, if I remember correctly, it was Chris's video game system. Can't remember what it was at that point in time, but we thought we had invented the wheel.
I know it was, and it was like the only gaming system that didn't continue on to future generations. I don't even know what it was. Some pretty lousy
I
games.
think it was a Smintendo.
It had like little weird cartridges. Everything about it was weird, but we thought it
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
but
it had
it
Tetris,
worked.
which was all that mattered.
Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're talking Cheers today. As the listener can tell, we've watched many episodes. I think it's probably one of only two, or maybe three, but probably only two sitcoms where I have seen every single episode. As I said, in this case, I think I've seen every single episode with you guys, and it's possible we've seen every episode twice altogether.
I was thinking about that. The whole syndication thing, doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
And it was such a big deal for us when a show became syndicated, meant that the other networks could air it. And it was on pretty much every day. And
Yeah.
that was like just gold for us.
Heaven.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. That we could watch it every day as opposed to once a week. It was a big deal pre-streaming. That
Yeah,
that was a big
I think
deal.
that's something that people that are much younger than us don't think about. Like we'd have to wait an entire week to see the show that we wanted to see
Right.
when it was showing live, whatever. And then it would go into reruns for part of the season. So we'd have to wait a couple months for new episodes. And if you missed it, unless you had a Betamax or a VCR and taped it, you were screwed. You had to wait till it repeated. And
Yep.
you'd almost be like walking around, don't tell me what happened on the show. It's like, but
Well, in the case of Cheers, whatever local network was playing Cheers, for a big chunk of the time we were all three roommates, they played Cheers twice a day. Like it was on at 6 or some weird time, and then it was on again at 10 o'clock. And there's no doubt in my mind that there were many days where we watched two episodes of Cheers,
oh yeah.
3 or 4 times in a week.
I'm sure if
And
you get Cheers in syndication, you're going to play it as many times as makes sense.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely got to be at the top of the list of American sitcoms of all time. It's certainly at the top of my list. We've talked about it in the past, even about how it was such an important part of our lives. And that's one of the reasons, because it was, it was that time we were what, 24, 25 in that range.
Right.
No real obligations, working entry level jobs or still going to school or that kind of thing.
We were working, but we still had our toe dipped in the college life where, we were
Yeah.
doing nothing of value after work at all.
Right. Always. Never a value, I would say. Never a value.
No kids. That was a big thing. No kids. No
Yes.
wives, no kids, just hanging out, watching TV, playing video games.
And not to get really too philosophical about, a sitcom from the 80s, but I think one of the reasons that it appealed to me, I was thinking about this, of course, getting ready for the episode, and one of the topics that I jotted down was the idea of Cheers and found family, because that's what that show was about all these people that had hell, that's what the theme song was, is where everybody knows your name. That's the place that these people went. They liked these people probably more than their family, typically, at least in the case of Norm. But also, it's just they were the people that they counted on. And looking back on it, that probably appealed to three guys that were still trying to figure out what their life was going to look like. And of course, we were buddies at that point for 4 or 5 years at minimum, I think, when we started a room together. But I think that was one of the coolest things about that show, and maybe one of the most unique things at that time about a sitcom.
Wow, that got deep quick.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry
Well,
about that.
geez,
But
Tom.
but but now that you say that, it makes perfect sense. Our original found family was our fraternity.
Hmm.
And then as we got older and graduated, pieces of that family moved on, and that makes perfect sense that the three of us carry that on when we lived together.
And it was a similar family, right? Because it was lots of joking, lots of making fun of each other, lots of trying to top each other with one-liners, which is, exactly what went on in the sitcom.
Right.
And I think I was going to ask the question earlier before Tom got all deep and philosophical, but like what other shows sort of made you have that feeling of being at home? Because when I was a kid, we'd watch All in the Family was on all the time, and it probably doesn't hold up for for some of its humor, but it just made me feel comfortable when I watched it, and it was funny. And Cheers had that same feel. Were there other shows like that for you guys that just sort of made it feel like it was family or home or something comfortable? Because Cheers is one of the ones that stands. I think we've all been looking for the next Cheers for 25 years and haven't found it.
I would say obviously MASH for
Mm.
our generation, that was
Yep.
one that was appointment viewing, and for us being kids and tweens, when that was on, that one would probably fall in that category. But there's not a lot. There's just a few. And then I think Seinfeld, as we got
Mm.
older, Seinfeld was, obviously that for us in our 30s or 40s, whenever that show was on.
Yeah, and what happened, I think, when we got older, and people were trying to discover the next appointment TV type of show. You're right. I watched Seinfeld religiously, but it was almost like a deconstruction, right? It was kind of making fun of that whole found family thing because in so many ways those people were awful. They were awful to each
Right.
other, and it was different. The Friends was probably the most obvious attempt to rip something like that off, with this group of people that hung out in a coffee shop, and but I don't know that anything. The first show that came to mind, Chris, when you asked the question, was a show that was also in syndication when we were roommates, which was the show Wings,
Oh,
which I think was a direct attempt to kind of be like Cheers, just to transplant the whole idea because they were always in their airport, this tiny little airport. But the other reason I thought of that was because, and I've told this joke before, but I don't know if you remember the animated show Duckman, which was like an adult animated show that I don't even remember what network it was. It was on for like 3 or 4 years. But there's a point where Duckman, he was an anthropomorphic duck, is watching TV late at night, and a commercial comes on. It says, "Wings, wings, wings, and wings will not be seen tonight. It's going to be preempted." And and that's exactly what Wings was like and Cheers was like when we were living together. Is they just showed those constantly because they knew people would watch them all the time. But I think that was one of those shows that tried to do that immediately after Cheers. Like I think it came right
yeah,
on the heels of Cheers.
I'm pretty sure it was NBC also, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think it
yeah.
was. I think it was in the same like nightly. It was a
Same
Thursday
time,
night thing or
same
something.
day, same day.
Was Cheers one of the shows that we watched in the house with everyone else, like in the TV room, or is that am I off on? Because I remember the Cosby Show was for sure.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was. I feel like it was more something that the three of us did, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it wasn't just the three of us, but like in my mind, I connect. It's one of the reasons we had to have Joe, right? Was because I connect every time I hear that theme song, I think back to the three of us watching it at that apartment in Syracuse, and then
Right.
later when we moved to the other apartment. And I don't remember watching it the same way when we were still in undergrad.
Yeah, I don't either. I, in the fraternity house, I just have scarred in my memory two shows, Miami Vice on Friday nights, and at lunchtime, the Beverly Hillbillies with Nick and Grady. Watched.
So, in anticipation of today's episode, I did probably more research than I've ever done, except for maybe the episode that Liz suggested for us. I watched 4 episodes of Cheers last night,
Nice.
and it was Cheers. Some seasons of Cheers are on Hulu. It's really weird. It lists the first 4 seasons, except that under the list for the third season, there are no episodes at all. So technically, it shows you can watch episode or season 1, season 2, and season 4 on Hulu and no other seasons. I don't know. I'm sure there's some contract thing going on as far as that's concerned. But I was able to watch at least 2 of my favorite all-time episodes of Cheers. And the thing I took out of it when I went to bed last night, I was thinking about it, and it's that, you know what? That show holds up really well.
Yeah, I watched it last year. Good bit. I won't go into why, but it was yeah, same thing. I started with season one and then watched all of season one, and it's like it was just like finding an old friend again. It was just as I don't say relevant, it's not the right word. It worked in 2024 as good as it did in 1984.
It feels like 1884.
Right. Um, which was kind of neat to see because like you said, it meant so much to us, and it would have been disappointing to turn it on and go, "Oh, this is so stupid," you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it held up very well.
One of the episodes I watched last night was called the title of the episode was "The Boys in the Bar," and it's the episode where Sam's best buddy from his Major League Baseball days, who I
Mm,
think was his catcher, wrote a book, and Sam agrees to let the guy do an interview announcing the book at the bar.
Right,
And of course, Sam doesn't read the book before that day. And the book is basically the revelation of the book is that this friend of Sam's is gay.
right.
And in the mid 1980s, that could have gone really poorly. And there are some really kind of cringy moments where, Norm and Cliff and everybody, they're the big thing is they're worried now the bar is going to turn into a gay bar and it's like the worst thing in the world. But the underlying message is very solid and is, just about, again, it's kind of a found family thing. It's about supporting people regardless of who they are. And I was shocked when I decided to watch that because I read the synopsis and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that episode. I wonder how bad this is, looking back on
Right.
it from this far back. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
The jokes, it felt real. Even in today's society, I think it would still feel real. And the jokes are still funny. And one of the things you realize is just how amazing Ted Danson is as an actor. Because if you ever see him in real life or hear him interviewed, he is so not a former pro athlete. Like he is such a
Right.
theater guy. He's just got that kind of manner to him.
Right.
Very patrician, very kind of, and you've seen him in other shows where he's shown that now. But back then, I believed he was he could have been a pitcher, like he could have been playing pro sports.
So I had a question for you guys. I don't know if our listeners know this, but you guys were both bartenders. I think you've talked about this on episodes before. You guys were both bartenders.
Mm-hmm.
Did you find any parallels between your experiences and that show? I've never asked you guys that question, but it's an obvious one that I should have probably asked you guys before. Anything there?
My guess is that Chris's answer will be different than mine. First of all, Chris kind of worked more than I did at the bars. We most of the time we worked at two different bars that
Right.
were owned by the same people, and I felt always kind of like an outsider there. I mean, I worked, at one point probably 3 or 4 nights a week before I went back to law school. But I always felt a little bit like an outsider there, and I feel like Chris, you probably were a little bit more accepted or maybe just spent more time with them because you work more shifts, first of all.
I was more of a loser, so I fit in a little bit better. So it was a
That is not
they
what I said.
they they loved me.
They did.
There's certainly some screwed up things that happen. Like one of my favorite stories working at a bar was, and I think I've probably even told on the show, is when the guy walked in and over at Schmeezing's, the steps, the entryway, there's steps down to the main bar section. The guy stood at the top of the steps, clearly spotted a guy, walked over and just punched him in the face. And then he stood there and held his hands up and says, I've been wanting to do that forever. And I was like, holy fuck, what do I do?
That
So
does sound like a scene for the show, man.
yeah, so I went over and the guy wanted to leave. And I'm like, dude, you're not leaving. And then, the police, there's a couple of cops that hung out there all the time and they were there in like no time. The guy got taken away and they're like, you probably shouldn't have kept him. That's false imprisonment or something. I was like, whatever. But we had guys like they weren't quite Norm, but they were like the real life versions of Norm and Cliff. Because Tom, this, the regulars that sat at the end of the bar, and the one guy, I won't say his name. I'm guessing he might have passed because he was pretty old at the time. He would just sit and sip on Courvoisier until he got so drunk we had to call a taxi for him 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, he was an awesome guy when he was sober. And then we had the two guys. I knew one of them was killed. I mean, that's the weird thing about the bars is so
Yeah.
many people that work there aren't with us anymore. The two guys who worked at the Greek restaurant, and they'd come in
Oh,
and they'd
I'm gonna
Ahmad
say
and
names. Ahmed and Muhammad. Like
yeah,
they would
exactly.
walk in and it was like Norm. It's like Ahmed, Muhammad,
I
and they'd
know
come in and
exactly.
go. They
They'd
come
be
in after a
buying.
shift after working like 15 hours at the Greek restaurant in U City,
Yep.
and they were awesome. Those guys.
Yeah, and you had Dave Mahfood, I think,
Yeah.
was another guy, and my last night there. They wanted to take me to get a tattoo. Thankfully, the tattoo parlor was closed by the time I got there, so I did not get a tattoo. So I definitely have some good memories of almost a family-like feel because I think
Yeah.
they did take me in, and that's what I was working. You guys are talking about working and balancing college and work. I was still a little slow to that, so I stayed in the bartending world for a little while, but it was great. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. That's some
And
good story.
it was formative for me too because it helped me grow up a little bit in a
Yeah,
strange way. I mean, there's a lot of drinking and other stuff, but I had people like robbing the not robbing violently, but waitresses who would be stealing money, and I'd work with management if just the real life stuff. Like our owner was like the coolest. He was really laid back about money, and times you're like, dude, you really should pay more attention to like billing people and other stuff. And so I don't know, it opened my eyes to the real world, and I didn't want to be in that world the rest of my life. That also helped me get back
yeah.
to where I wanted to be.
Yeah,
That's the thing is there's, and there were two different. There was the original Schmeezings, and then there was a place called Schmeezings Millbrook, which was just diagonal from the campus.
right.
And I think Chris, you started working at Millbrook. Is that right? No, because it opened later. You started at the other
Yeah.
Schmeezings. You got me a job there, and that place in particular felt, like you said, partially because of the owners, felt like that found family vibe, except just a little too depressing because Cheers
Yeah.
didn't show the waitress who died in a motorcycle accident or the guy who the fucking JUCO professor who got a student pregnant, that kind of thing. There's some really dark stories. Actually, we should have written those down now that I think about it. Uh, but it still was that, like, you can see how the Charles brothers and Burroughs, you can see how they thought this is a great idea for a TV show because there's just endless stories.
Right.
Because as we're talking here, I realized that Chris and I should do an episode just about tending bar in the 80s because I know we could do an hour of conversation about that stuff.
Yeah, I got
Very cool.
one more funny story. A guy came in, he had done something that I was real happy about. So he was buying everyone shots at the bar, jacking up his tab, and I'm like, "Are you sure you want to do this?" He's like, "Yeah," and he didn't seem drunk at all. I turned around at one point to ring up his latest round. I turned back around and he's gone. And I look down, he'd passed out and fallen off the bar stool.
Oh
So
my
I
God.
was like, oh fuck. So I had to call a taxi. I talked to a bunch of people. So I called a taxi. I paid for it, sent him down to that crappy little hotel or motel just down the street from us.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I worked the next morning. I came in and his car was gone. So I'm gonna go on the assumption that he made it out okay. So
Let me ask you guys, do you have a favorite episode? One of the things we talked about doing was, and we're going to do is a draft. And one of the drafts we considered was doing our draft of our favorite episodes, which is not what we're going to do, but I'm very curious to hear what your favorite episode might be.
So my favorite episode is a tie-in to my first draft pick. So I think I'll hold off. And my favorite episode now is not what my favorite episode would have been, obviously in my 20s.
Yeah.
So I'll hold off on my answer. Like Chris, take this one.
favorite episode? I don't know that I do. I mean, the one that I remember the most is the final one.
Yeah.
Um, and I hate to be all mushy, but the other one that I remember is after Coach passed away.
Right.
So I'm going with the sad ones, but he was such an important part of the show and had some of the greatest lines. I think we're going to talk about that too. But th those are the two that stand out. But
I
So,
did. I told Tom this. I don't know if it got back to you, Chris. Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson have a podcast. It's called Where Everybody Knows Your Name. And I found it last year and I listened to, over the course of the past year, I listened to them run it back with all the old crew, not Shelley Long, but George
oh,
Wendt and John Ratzenberger, the Charles brothers, et cetera, et cetera. So I got a lot of the behind the curtain stuff, not knowing that we were going to do this episode, but
hmm.
uh, I would highly recommend for you and any Cheers fans out there to look up that podcast. It's fantastic.
yeah, I listened to a couple episodes, but I didn't, so far, I haven't listened to any where they had old Cheers people on as guests. I kind of started at the beginning and they didn't start right away with that. So I'm
Right.
going to have to, I think I'm going to pick and choose a little bit to get to some of those. But as I said, I watched. three or four episodes that were all in the first like two seasons of Cheers because it's all I had access to. However, a couple of my all-time favorites were there, and I'll just one of them. I'm sure as soon as I talk about it, you'll just remember it almost beat for beat. But one of the episodes was called "Endless Slumper," and it's the bottle cap episode. So it's the episode where Sam gives away his lucky bottle cap to a
Yeah.
young Red Sox pitcher who's in a slump.
Right.
And it is such a like a heartfelt, emotional episode. And I think it's fair to spoil something that's 40 years old at this point. But he holds on to the bottle cap not because it was good luck for him when he played baseball, but because it was the cap from the last bottle of beer he drank before he quit.
Right.
And the final scene is just him and Diane in the bar, and he finds out that this ball player lost the bottle cap. And Sam's been unlucky for 2 weeks. He's been crashing his car, and there's just a lot of funny comments.
Is that when couldn't slide the beer down the bar anymore, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like that's his trick that he's always been able to do.
Right.
And it just ends with him opening a bottle of beer. Diane is sure he's going to drink it because he's just on edge, and instead he slides the bottle around the corner like he had been able to do before. He keeps the bottle cap. He goes, look, I guess I didn't lose it after all, And it's such a great episode.
Yeah.
Although my favorite part of it is the beer sliding part. Right at the beginning of the episode, Cliff is sitting at that end of the bar next to an old guy, and Cliff's like, "Hey, Sam, can you do the bar slide thing? I bet this guy $1, and he doesn't believe you. He doesn't believe you can do it." So Sam does it. He slides the beer. The guy looks and is all surprised, and everybody kind of claps, and it's really cool. And Cliff looks at the other guy and he goes, "Hit the bricks, pal." The guy finishes his beer and just walks out of the bar. It was like the cold open. That's the kind of thing that they did so well. Where just like those one-hit jokes. Oh my God, it was so funny. Uh, and then I would say that maybe one of my all-time favorite episodes, which was also in season one, it's titled Coach's Daughter.
No, don't talk about
Okay.
it.
I
You're stealing my thunder.
all right, I'm gonna back off, but what a great
God damn
episode.
it. There's
What a
like
great
200 episodes and you
I figured that was going to happen, right? But I won't say anything else other than what a great episode that was. It was just fantastic. I forgot how much I love that show.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny.
Actually, no, that's perfect segue. Why don't we go into our draft? We decided to do a serpentine draft of our favorite Cheers characters. Joe, you're the first person outside of Chris and I that have been involved in a third song in draft. And because of that, we've extended the number of draft picks there are going to be. And Chris, you're going to have to correct
I
me
think
if
we're
I'm
doing
wrong.
4 because I think that ends up coming back
Yeah, so we're doing
correctly.
4 each, right? So a total of
Yep.
12.
Okay.
And
So Joe's first, and then you
right.
and I will flip for second.
And I just flipped a coin, and Chris calls.
Tails.
Tails it is.
I'll take third.
Okay. And because it's serpentine, that means that you will do third and fourth, and then we'll go back to Joe and do the same thing. So these are our favorite Cheers characters. The draft begins now.
All right. Well, with the first pick, as Tom alluded to when he stole my thunder, my first pick is Coach, played by Nick
Yeah.
Colasanto. Like I said, in my 20s, I don't know that that would have been my first choice, but where I sit right now at 58, that's an easy call. Coach was, they played him off as initially as someone who wasn't the smartest guy in the world, but his friends meant everything to him. Beyond that, there wasn't much depth of character, I don't think, until that episode that Tom referenced, Coach's daughter, where his daughter didn't have the self-confidence in herself, in her appearance. She was settling for some scumbag for marriage. Uh,
Roy. Roy was an asshole.
Roy was a dick. Who sells suits anyway? Uh, uh, their interchange where he's talking to her about their mother and trying to instill the confidence in her to make the right decision. It's just if you have a daughter, you've got to watch it. It's
Oh,
just so touching and so moving and so poignant. And you don't expect it from Coach at that point because they haven't given him anything like that in his character to that point where it gets that deep. So it's both surprising and just beautiful. And yeah, he was on the show for such a short period of time. Obviously, the silver lining in that is we got Woody Harrelson, but I still think that was too heavy a price to pay.
yeah, yeah.
I would have liked to have seen Coach for longer for sure. But anyway, my first pick, Coach Nick Colasanto.
Coach, that episode, dude, it is so touching. The quote that I was going to pull from it is that when as you said, his daughter she's basically trying to tell him, look, I'm ugly and no man is going to ask me to marry
Right,
him other than this asshole Roy.
right.
And she, at the beginning of the conversation, she looks at him and she goes, isn't it obvious to you? And Coach's response is, nothing's ever obvious to me.
Right.
And that's like the funny setup. And then it gets really touching and really beautiful, which is, I think, what you were referring to. But that was such a great Coach line that
Right.
nothing's ever obvious to me. And he was just so earnest when he said it. It's just so awesome. That's such
So
a great episode to rewatch, by the way. Oh
it
my
is,
God.
Yep.
and it wasn't that episode, but a line slash song that I sing to this day was when him and who was he studying with? They were taking a class. I think it
Damn.
was a geography. It was a Sam.
Yeah.
And he sang, he made up songs to help him remember stuff. So it
Right.
was Albania,
Albania.
and it went Albania,
Albania.
Albania, you
Albania. You
border
border
on
on
the
the
Adriatic.
Adriatic. Same thing.
So
That's in my head forever. Yep.
I don't hear the word Albania a whole lot, but every single time I do, I sing that song to myself, or maybe out loud.
That's so
So,
funny. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's fantastic. All right.
so
I believe I'm second. I have the second pick. And my pick is Norm. I got to go
Mm,
Norm. Truthfully, very little has to be said. He was one of the kind of most original characters in TV at that point, or at least it felt like to me. I'm sure there were older sitcoms that had kind of that. Obviously, they had like the wisecracking guy, but he was good for at least one funny one-liner every single episode we watched, and I just thought he was fantastic, and he is the number two pick after Coach on the draft.
all right. Well, I guess Joe sort of set me up. I'm gonna take the two podcast hosts. I'm gonna take Sam Malone and Woody Harrelson, Woody Boyd. So I stick. Jope, you talked about who you would have taken when you were younger. I think I always would have taken Sam just because felt like even if he was just acting, that former athlete type of stuff, and
right.
uh, he was. I mean, some of the humor probably doesn't hold up, but they made fun of it too, his womanizing and everything else. There's some great episodes like where Diane does the study of him, writes a paper on his womanizing, but Woody, I think it was. I didn't like him at first because I didn't want to lose Coach, but he
Mm-hmm.
grew on me and he was fantastic. And turns out Woody Harrelson's a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my two. I knew you guys thought I was going to take Lilith, but I'm going to go with Sam and Woody.
So my favorite Woody memory was on the first episode that he was on, and we were all on, I don't want to say pins and needles. That's not the right phrase, but we're all wondering how this is going to work without Coach. He was the wingnut, maybe that
Yeah.
held that group together. And Woody walks in the bar and he says, "Yeah, was pen pals with Coach." And decided to come over and see if I get a job. And I think it was Cliff says to him, "Oh, you guys used to exchange letters?" And he said, "No, pens." And I was like, yeah, this will probably work.
I I forgot that line. Yeah, because initially he kind of was being coach-like. and he was from Indiana. That was his whole thing. He was kind of a
Right.
hayseed, but yeah, what he did create a different character than that. But you're right. When he walked in the door, you're like, all right, this show can keep going on.
Yep. Yep.
Joe, I'm curious, Joe, where did you have Sam in your list?
Similar, to Chris, if I was at the bottom of the draft, if Sam wouldn't have got past me.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was surprised because I had him lower down. Probably he probably would have gone in, for me fourth if I was just picking by myself. And that kind of surprised me because I sat down and thought about all the characters. And again, especially if you look at the way Ted Danson plays him, like he plays him as such a flawed character. And I think that was part of the appeal of the show is even though he was this, in his little world, he was the superstar. You realize that he does not have his shit together.
Right.
No.
So you have the next two picks, Jope.
You pick.
You
Oh,
picked
I'm
him.
the middle guy, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I hate being in the middle like this. However, it does allow
So,
me to pick Carla.
I thought you were gonna
I
take Cliff.
again, is particularly in the rewatch, you realize just how funny she was and how important she was as like that, the rough edge to that bar and how she kept everybody in line. I love Rhea Perlman's playing of that character. And I'm typing.
So to me then for two picks, well, obviously I'm going to pick Cliff.
Yep.
I'll think about the second one. So I don't know if you guys know this story. I got it from the podcast. Cliff auditioned for the role of Norm.
Huh.
And
Really?
yes, and he went in, did the audition. He kind of knew it didn't go well. That was the vibe of the room. And he said he was literally walking out the door, and he turned around and said to the Charles brothers, he said, "Hey, who do you have cast for the bar know-it-all?" And they said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Every every bar has someone in the bar who thinks they know everything about everything." And they're like, "Okay, come back in." And that was not
Wow.
one of their characters when they created the show. Cliff did not exist, and he planted that seed, and they created that character around him. Um,
Holy shit. I did not know that.
yeah, that was interesting to find out. And he played. I mean, he played that so well. I mean, he was such an annoying character, but so integral to that family. Because every family, I think, has one of those people where you're like, you know what, just shut up for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's an easy pick. And then I would, I would probably go Frasier next. It was, I think, just a smart casting job where it was the Cheers crew was all similar people.
Mhm.
Norm and Cliff and the semi-regulars, they were all a similar person. And they did such a good job of putting an educated man, showing an educated man falling into that morass, if you will, of being a regular in a bar. I mean, who expects a board certified psychiatrist to fall in line with a mailman and a drunk accountant? But it fit like a glove. He fit in again as part of the family, like you said. And that obviously spun off to Frasier, and that went on and on and on. But I thought that was just a very smart addition to the cast, and he quickly became one of the regulars.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and the way they wrote it, it wasn't abrupt either. Like one of the episodes that shows up, if you look up, best Cheers episodes, one of them that comes up is the snipe hunting episode, which was, well, that was
Yeah.
early on, right? So that, that's them basically kind of hazing him, initiating him into the group, and the way he responded to all that stuff had an impact on whether he was going to be a regular at that bar.
Right,
So it took time for him to be the guy that everybody said hi to when you walked in, and I thought that was
right.
really well done.
And he also had a very memorable line. I can't remember the occasion. That maybe it was Woody's bachelor party. He came in the bar and he said, "I just heard a phrase on the radio that I think summarizes what is about to take place. He's just paused and he said, "Everybody have fun tonight. Everybody Wang Chung." It was such a foreign thing to him, and he was just so amazed by it. He's like, "Yes." I
Yeah,
think
he
of
did
that
a great
anytime I
job.
hear a reference to that song. I always think of him saying that line. But anyway, those are my two picks for was that 6 and 7?
That show is just so well cast. Like they did such a great job of putting those people together. All right, so I have the middle pick now. I have number 8. And so we have a couple regulars left, but we're starting to get down into the recurring character area for me. And I gotta say that rather than a couple of the series regulars, I'm going with Harry the Hat.
You bastard.
Played by Harry Anderson. He's the con man who occasionally comes into the bar. It is one of the episodes I watched last night was him helping them take down a guy who was stealing money from Coach. But
Right.
I had already picked him fairly high in my draft. I picked him before both Diane and Rebecca, even though they're obviously series regulars. I just always loved that character. I thought he did such a great job. In fact, that's what turned into his I think that's what got him noticed and got him the show Night Court, which lasted for another 10 years, something like that. So Harry the Hat, Giddis, I guess it was technically his last name, is pick number 8 for the draft.
Nice choice, fucker.
I knew one of you would pick him. There's no
Yeah.
doubt.
He was so great in that episode. I'm telling you.
All right. Riffing off of Thomas, I agree that Carla was a fantastic part of the show. Sometimes underappreciated, but well deserving of a top 5 choice. I hated him sometimes on the show, but he's such a great, intriguing actor. I'm going with Nick Tortelli, Rosberg.
Yes.
He
That was
was
going to be
meant,
my last pick.
yeah, he was meant to be, he was meant to be a douchebag, and he played it up perfectly. And he always plays that character, but I still love him for it. He's just what's his name? Dan Hedaya.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with Nick. I hated Diane. I can't take her. I did not like her. I'm gonna go with Rebecca. I like the actress, Kirstie Alley. I like the difference. I like how they cast her way different than Diane Chambers' role as Diane, or sorry, Diane, the character Diane. And I don't know, she just had spunk, and I enjoyed her. If you think about the way they continued to complement the cast, she was another great addition. Same thing, like while I didn't like Diane, it was sad to see her go and just wondering how they'd replace her. And when they first brought her on, I was skeptical, but Kirstie Alley grew into it. I thought she was a great addition too.
Yeah, I agree. That was my difficulty too. I have them kind of back to back on my list of who I would choose. Neither of them were my favorites by any means.
Yeah,
But you're right about it. And again, it just comes down to the producers of that show. Just they figured out how to replace people. When you have you don't get shows that run that long necessarily these
right.
days, and and you also hopefully don't get a situation where you tragically lose someone like Coach, but they managed to fill those gaps so well with completely different characters.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I would
And
have to agree with you.
putting another, obvious love interest in place of Diane it would have flopped,
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Because she
So,
was such a huge part of that show, whether you liked her character or not.
right.
That show started out kind of being centered around those two as much as anything else, and it was only I think when you realize you could write entire episodes about any character on that in that cast that they realized she didn't have to be the most important. So when she left, they were like, yeah, we can do this. We can put somebody else in there.
Yep.
So having said that, and being tempted to pick a couple of other kind of recurring characters, I'm going to pick with the 11th pick, right? 11th, I believe we're at.
Yep.
I'm going to pick Diane. I'm going to pick the character played by Shelley Long. Again, she was so important to the show, and you weren't supposed to like her. I mean, that she was well written in that
Right.
regard. But one of the things that I wasn't able, as I said, I was saying before, maybe before we got on air, I wasn't able to watch the finale. I really wanted to watch the finale, but I couldn't find it streaming right away. But the fact that they brought her back and the way they wrote her at the end of that whole series, she did such a great job as an actress, and it really tied everything together that she certainly did, deserves to be in that top 12
Yeah.
of people who appeared on that show. So Diane
Agreed.
is number 11.
All right. Well, that leaves me with the smorgasbord for number 12. Um, and I think I'll stick with the theme that Tom kind of started with, the family. Pick an unpopular family member. One of the semi-regulars that was in the bar and was on quite a bit of episodes. I just looked it up, 56 out of 270, and that was Paul. He was the
Nice.
he was the bald, chubby guy
Yes.
who always wanted to be in with the in crowd of Norm and Cliff.
Yep.
And he just could never get in. He was always there. He was always trying. And he could never get in.
That's a
Um,
great pick.
Yeah, that may be the best pick of the draft just because you had so many choices there that you could have gone with.
yeah,
Nice work.
it's either him or
That,
Al. Al was always great for just some crusty, some one-liners from a crusty old guy that just, were hilarious. But I always felt for Paul. He tried so hard and just never got there.
yeah,
No.
Al would have been that was the guy I had if I had the very last pick. I was going to take Big Al for that reason. But
Yep.
Paul, I think Paul's actually a better pick, and I didn't really think about him in my list. But Chris, did you have anybody else at that like the recurring character level? Like who would you have picked if you got to that 12th pick?
He was my pick.
Was he?
I didn't know if anybody else would go that way. No, I think I struggled. I mean, like some of the other ones you weren't meant to like Lilith. I joked about
Right.
Lilith. She's a great actress and she was fun. And I never liked Fraser's brother either.
Yeah,
Uh,
although did was he on? I don't remember him
he
being in an
I think
episode.
he was listed as I have to see how many episodes he was on. But he was listed. I actually pulled up a list of
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the people on there.
because I
He may
didn't
not
like
have
him
been on
on
a bunch.
Frasier. I agree with
Yeah, I didn't like
that.
him on Frasier at all. I don't think he was as unlikable on Cheers, and he may not have been on a bunch of episodes. So no, I think Paul was my choice
Yeah,
if I would
that was
have
a good one.
reversed.
What about one episode characters? Do you guys have anybody?
I saw a list of those and I didn't sit down and study it very well, so I don't have a one episode character.
Mine
I'm
was
thinking you do.
mine was mine was Big Eddie, that big Yankees fan that came in the bar and was
Oh
talking shit on Sam, and
yeah.
Carla jumped on his back and was banging him across
Yes,
the bar.
Big Eddie, that's awesome.
It was prototypical New Yorker, just loud and obnoxious, and Carla just wailing on him.
Ah, that's great. That's because there were a couple others I had on the list, although I didn't think we would get to them. But Eddie LeBeck,
Yep.
Carlos, one of Carlos'
Yep. Yep.
husbands. Yeah, I think maybe 3 or 4 episodes he showed up. I thought he did a great job. Kelly Gaines, Woody's wife, eventual wife in the show, and I didn't think she was great, but just because of the song that Woody wrote for her, which I believe went Kelly, 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 Kelly.
Right.
I had her on my list only for that reason.
Yeah.
Uh, I did see a bunch of articles that talked about how Lilith, uh, BB Newworth was the actress's name, how she stole a lot of scenes in that show when she showed up because she was just so good at playing that character. Like you said, Chris, nobody liked her,
Right.
but
Yeah.
she really did a good job with the character. So I had her at the end of my list as well.
The only other one that I had that was only on one episode, but it was such an iconic episode, was Alex Trebek.
Yes,
Yeah. Yes.
that's right.
when Cliff went on Jeopardy and blew it at the end with the famous answer in Final Jeopardy of who are three people who have never been in my kitchen?
That episode always shows up on top five list, by the
Right.
way. Oh, it's
And
so
and Alex Trebek walks in the bar later, and they think he came to console Cliff, and he's like, "Oh no, I was lost." He said, "That guy's crazy,"
good.
something like that.
Yeah, that was really good.
He humanized Alex Trebek, who was a very stoic
Yes.
figure in a lot of people's lives. I always remembered his appearance as well.
Yeah, they had a few like real life one-off appearances. I wasn't Tip O'Neill in an episode, I think.
Yep.
There
Yep.
was a general, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I think, or something, was a guest at one point. Somebody I didn't know at the time, and still don't really know who he is, but I saw him listed as a one-off character.
Kevin McHale from the Celtics.
Oh, that's right. That's
Nice.
right.
Yep.
Was it Keith Hernandez? Or no, I think that's Seinfeld, actually. I
Yeah,
take
that's
that back.
Seinfeld.
That's
Yeah.
not
Right.
that's not
Right.
true. But I do feel like there were one or two famous baseball players.
Um, you wouldn't know him, Tom. Chris wouldn't. Louis Tiant was on an episode.
Was he?
Yeah,
Ah,
Nice.
he was
Louis
in a com
Tiant and his crazy windup.
yes, yes. I think he was in a commercial with Sam or something like that. But anyway.
the character of the young pitcher in Endless Slumper was Shooter McGavin, a
Oh,
young whatever that guy's name is.
Oh
He
my
played the
goodness.
pitcher who Sam lent his bottle cap to and then lost it on the road. I was like, hey, that's Shooter.
Hmm.
all right. Are we just trying to build up the drama about what my fucking post facto was? Let's
No,
get
I
to
mean,
It's
it.
time.
no, I wasn't, but
It's time for post facto.
It's a mistake. It's a mistake.
Post facto is where we correct mistakes, finish sentences or thoughts from previous episodes, and it's where I generally acknowledge that I don't make mistakes. But apparently that's not true.
yeah, I listening to the episode that dropped yesterday. Chris, you were right in that I do like Run the Jewels and Just, I think is a great song, but the lead singer of Rage Against the Machine is not Zach De La Roche. It's Zach De La
Oh,
Rocha.
Roca,
Ah,
sorry.
A very small correction, but
a
I
pronunciation post
Yeah, that's
facto.
a good one though, because our episode with Sloan, I didn't choose a song because I wasn't 100% sure how to pronounce the name either of the artists. I think it was the artist, and I didn't want to look like an idiot. So yeah, I don't want to like pronounce on a show about music, mispronouncing Rage's lead singer's name probably isn't great. So
I felt bad, but I felt like it needed to be addressed. I'm sorry.
no,
I feel
no, you should not feel bad, Jope. I can deal with that.
My post facto, Joe, is actually a question. Since you're back here, and since I just listened to your episode where we talked about your burgeoning sports card trading uh, uh, company with your son Joey, one of the guys we talked about as an example of a player that I think your prediction was is that he was good for an increase in value just by virtue of the buying the card in the off season and then trying to sell it during the season. Is one of the guys you mentioned was Lamar Jackson.
correct.
So my question for you is, with the injury that he suffered, and I don't think it's a season-ending injury, but does that affect that kind of thing? Do you were you able to sell it before he got hurt, or do you figure you just hold on to it now and see if he comes back and is the old, the kind of typical Lamar Jackson who kicks ass all the time?
Right. So the plan was always for those guys, you hold on to it till January and the playoffs start when people start to really get amped up. It was never to sell it in week 7, or if you will.
Gotcha.
So yeah, his value will still be there because Baltimore's 1-4, but there's so many injuries. They're still at 1-4. They're still the odds-on favorite to win the AFC North, which is
Yeah,
Yeah.
sad for our
I know.
Steelers and
Yes.
our Bengals. So his value will be still be there. What hurts is someone like Joe Burrow going out for 3 months and not probably playing the rest of the year.
Yep.
That means I have to sit on his cards for we have to sit on his cards for another 15 months because they won't come back. Because the Bengals are going to be 6-11 or whatever they're going to be.
Ooh,
Um,
that's very generous of you.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I think they're going to be 6-11. I'm firmly convinced in 10 days that they are going to beat the Steelers at home. There's a thing in Pittsburgh, it's called a Mike Tomlin trap game, where over the course of 15 plus years, you can predict which games his teams are going to come out flat, and they're going to be up for Cleveland at home. They got a short week. They go to Cincinnati, and then they got Green Bay the next week. Aaron Rodgers versus the Packers. The Bengals
Uh,
game is a classic Tomlin trap game. I will probably bet that they're going to lose that game. Like literally, I will put money on it.
and that brings us to our next segment, which is Loft of Wisdom.
You better open up your eyes, baby, because fools do get wise.
Loft of Wisdom is quotes. It's our favorite quotes or a quote we just heard, song lyric, quote from a book, quote from TV, quote from a movie. And I would like to know, Joe, do you have something we could put on the Loft of Wisdom?
I do, and consistent with our theme of Cheers. For those who aren't familiar with the show, very early in each episode, Norm would walk in the bar and everyone would yell Norm, and one of the bartenders would throw him an opening for a line. And there's probably 100 of them, but the one that I remember, well, there's two that I remember. One's offensive to women, so I'm not going to say that one. But my favorite is probably when Norm walks in the bar. They say, "Norm, how you doing?" And Norm says, "It's a dog eat dog world, and I'm wearing milk-bone underpants."
All right, I have to tell you, I picked two. And the reason I picked two is because I was afraid either you or Chris would take one, and you took one. That's my favorite Norm line of all time.
Yep, absolutely.
So my pick for the Loft of Wisdom is also a Norm quote. I think we're going to see a theme within our theme here. And I'm only going to, for the Loft, it's only going to be the very end of the conversation. But there's a conversation between Cliff and Norm, and Cliff says something along the lines of, Norm, why didn't you guys ever have kids? And Norm's response is, I can't, Cliff. I look at Vera and I just can't.
I forgot about that until you started. Yeah.
And I don't know how to write it exactly to give full credit to the pause because that made that line.
Right.
But that is my pick. All right, Chris, what do you have for the Loft of Wisdom?
Well, Jope's a better man than I am because I decided to be offensive to women. I think I've said it a million times. It's not really offensive is it really offensive to women or just to wives? No, I guess it is offensive to women. Because it does say, yeah, yeah, my quote, I'm just going to go there. Women can't live with them, pass the beer nuts. It's one of the best lines ever. And it's where Cheers is slightly problematic. There was a lot of what I think you would probably call misogynist comments at the time. And I'm not making excuses, but it was a progressive show for its time. I mean,
Yeah.
underlying all that and what was more acceptable. And sometimes actually, though, I think they're making fun of that stuff, even though they're saying it. So it's more subtle than that. Taken out of context, yes, you could say that Chris is being offensive to women, but I like to say that I'm paying a tribute to them by mocking how men make fun of women. And I like
Right.
beer nuts. So.
Yeah, that's similar to my quote too. It's funny, all three of us picked Norm quotes. But what are you going to do when you're talking about Cheers, right?
He had so many great lines walking into the bar.
So
Yep.
many.
But I tried to go with a single line versus multiple lines on the Loft of Wisdom.
Right.
Next up, our staff picks.
Just around the corner from you.
This is our chance to recommend something new, newish, coming out soon, or something we just found out about. Again, Jope, as our honored guest, I'll let you lead off. Do you have a staff pick for us this week?
So I'm going to recommend something that I haven't seen yet, but looks to be fantastic and right up our alley. It's a documentary. It's coming out Friday. Documentary is about John Candy, beloved comedian who passed away way too soon. Documentary is called John Candy, I Like Me. and I don't know what streamer it's on. You'll have to look for it, but it looks fantastic. I've seen highlights, and it's got clips from everybody he worked with: Bill Murray, Steve Martin, Tom Hanks, Marty Short, Mel Brooks, Catherine O'Hara, on and on and on. And it's obviously about his life. I can't wait to see it. It looks like it's just going to be a fantastic documentary.
Yeah, I was vaguely aware of that. I didn't realize when it was coming out. I just kind of saw a blurb somewhere. I'm with you. Hopefully, I've got the streaming service it's coming out on because I'm going to be tuning in first thing on Friday.
Yep.
So I have a staff pick that is hot off the presses for me. Just the other night, I went out on a Sunday night to a club to see a band. I got home at midnight. I'm saying all this to brag, frankly.
Wow.
I'm very proud of myself. Yeah. So I went to go see one of Chris's favorite bands, which is American Aquarium at Fitzgerald's in Berwyn, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. And that, by the way, that show was phenomenal. What a great, great show that was. But their opener was a guy I had never heard of, and I'm not even sure I can pronounce his name correctly. And he's very acoustic. It was just him. I think he had a bass player behind him, and that was it. Or actually, maybe just a rhythm guitarist behind him. He played guitar and harmonica and sang very kind of, I don't know if this is the right phrase, classic Americana. Is a young kid. His name is Leon Machen or Machen, Majcen is the last name. And he was really good. It was very acoustic, very kind of low key. Reminded me a ton of Guy Clark, who just passed away a year or two ago. Has that kind of songwriting sensibility, has that kind of voice, actually, even though the kid looks like he's about 26 years old. But he sounded like a 50-year-old guy singing old country-ish stuff. He covered a John Prine song. He covered a Townes Van Sant song in his set. And he did a 4 or 5 originals. He has an EP out. I looked it up called Walking Down the Street. He actually has a couple albums out. He's out of Nashville. I think he's an up and comer. But his newest piece of work is an EP called Walking Down the Street, which just came out. I would recommend anything he did. And frankly, if you can see him live, see him because he's also kind of a cool storyteller. And he did a really nice, short opening set for American Aquarium.
Very cool and very impressive that you stayed up till midnight on a Sunday night.
How about that, huh? I couldn't be prouder of myself. And of course, being almost 60, we got there early. I was worried about parking. I literally parked across the street from the bar because nobody else got there that early. They didn't open that. We were there at like 6, and they didn't open the doors until 7:30. Luckily, there's a bar and a taco place down the street, so we were able to kind of deal with that. But I still had to drive home, and I didn't get to bed till midnight.
Very impressive.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm still tired, by the way, and it's a few days later. All right, so that takes us to Chris's staff pick.
Yeah, I went with a band that I've talked about a lot. I've been looking forward to this new album of theirs. The band is Ole 60, OLE 60. They are an up and coming band. I think they're past up and coming and getting their band. But they just put out a new album the week of this recording, which is the first week of October, called Smokestack Town. I've listened to it through a couple times. I don't yet have a song that rises to the level of Next to You. I've listened to thousands, probably hundreds of times. It's shown up on 2 consecutive YouTube Music recaps as the top song I've listened to, which shows some staying power. They also have a really sad but really cool song called Brother Joe. But this is their first full album, and I think it's going to grow on me. Yeah, they've only done singles before this point.
I didn't realize that.
I think they put out an EP. Let's be fair, but this is their first full LP. But yeah, Smokestack Town. Give it a listen. I think they're going to continue to grow. It's a really good band. I love the lead singer's voice, and I'm still jealous that Tom got to see American Aquarium before I did. You fucker.
Yeah, I thought you had seen them live
I know.
before.
Yeah.
Dude, as I texted you from the show, I think multiple times. I mean, they're like Lucero level live show, which is for me is saying a lot because that's one of my favorite live bands. Lucero and Drive By Truckers are the top two live bands to me ever, I think. And American Aquarium was approaching that. They were really energetic, especially for a Sunday night. It was a fantastic show. And for whatever it's worth, there's a poster up at Fitzgerald's for All 60. They're playing sometime this fall or this
Hmm.
winter, and they're already advertising
cool.
it. So, yeah, I may now have to go see that one too. See if I can stay up till midnight again. All right, we got to go into playlist picks.
Tom and I do a playlist for every season. And as Jope knows well, we usually do a guest playlist with our guests, but Jope did one this season already. So we did a draft with him. For the season picks, we're on the finale of season 9, which is crazy to think about. We'll pick a song that ideally lines up with the theme of the show, add it to the playlist, and you can listen to those playlists on YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Apple Music, or Spotify. Tom, do you want to go first?
I do. I do. I haven't given a runner-up in a while, but I do want to tell you that I almost picked the song Meet Me at Tommy's by the Hang Dogs.
Yeah.
In honor of a former guest and friend of the show, Matthew Grimm. It's a great song about hanging out at the bar, but it's a little sad, that song. It's really a breakup song. So instead of that, I went with, I feel like a song that celebrates the bar more. And that's called, and the title of the song is Let's All Go to the Bar by Deer Tick from the album Divine Providence, which came out in 2011. It's a rocker. It's very much a kind of an anthemic, or anthemic. I don't know how you pronounce that word. It's just I'm sure I've never seen them live, but I'm sure it's one of the songs they play at the end of the set where everybody in the crowd sings along and shouts out, let's all go to the bar along with the band. So that's my pick, my final pick for the season 9 third song in playlist.
Similar. I have backup. I'm copying Tom for once. I was going to go with Mark Germino's Exalted Rose. I think it's the name of it.
Yeah.
I've mentioned that one before. I just don't think it's on the album's on all the streaming services, so it would have been too hard to put on there. But it's a cool song about a bartender talking about a woman who's having a hard time with her husband and she refuses to leave him. It's just sort of that cool bartender type song, and it feels like a bar that I'd want to hang out at. Instead, I went with more a band, the Cadillac Three. The song is "Bar Round Here." I don't know if you listened to Cadillac Three much, Tom.
No, I
Yeah.
actually don't know if I've ever heard.
Give them a listen. They're country for sure, but they got a fairly unique sound. It may be sometimes more pop than I'm used to, but I like them and they're growing on me. And they one of the descriptions says that they're somewhere between radio ready country anthems, hard and heavy rock, and traditional Southern folk. And they call their sound country fuzz. So go listen to some country fuzz at bar around here, and that's my choice. Thank you, Joe Pay. Third time on the show, and maybe even better than the last one where you said it was the best podcast in the history of recorded language or something. It was a hell of an episode. I agree with you on that one, but this one may be better. More importantly, it's always great just spending time with you. It brings back great memories and reminds me of one of my best friendships I've had. So thank you. Appreciate it, bud.
I would do this every day if you would let me, and it didn't get boring for the listeners.
Can't thank you enough for being on this episode. And if we have anything to say about it, you will be back.
All
Oh,
right.
you will.
Third song in is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Joliet, Illinois, and Wildwood, Missouri.
All right. I already gave my heartfelt thanks to Joe Pace, so I'm just going to say thanks, dude. But we do want to continue to plug Joe's business. You can find him on ebay.com/USR/34_sports_cards. Go buy a Joe Burrow card from him right now. I think he's excited to sell those.
They're actually not up because the value is down. I don't, there might be one borough card up there, I'm not sure, but I've got about 8 that are collecting dust right now, sadly.
But you can always get that Kenny Pickett rookie card if you want.
Sadness.
You can also, by the way, find the link to Joe's company's eBay page at thirdsonginpodcast.com.
On the as mentioned page.
You can also email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Please send us your questions, your comments. Love to hear if you would have a different Cheers character draft than we did. Plus, if you've got some great lines from Norm or anybody else in the Cheers show, email us. Tell us what they are. You may find yourself on post facto in a future episode. Please follow us, rate and review our podcast on all of the platforms. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. I think Joe, I think you'd agree they should give us their goddamn stars, don't you?
Yeah. What the hell are you people waiting for?
Exactly. Finally, the voice of reason. You can download the podcast. Please tell people about the podcast. Word of mouth is very important for us and help us get some new listeners.
Our playlists, as we said, are available on all the streaming services, all of them. Go listen to them. You can search by Third Song In. I did it just the other day as I was updating the website, and may have to search a little bit, but you can definitely find it. Third Song In season playlists are easy to find. The guest ones also have Third Song In the title. Once you find them, listen to them, like them, share them. If you're able to give us stars, give us a star, because Tom really wants fucking stars.
I don't have enough stars. I need more stars.
You can't take them with you, so I mean, you might as well give them.
Exactly.
Oh, Lisa, intrepid internet sleuth, figured out how to find, and she found all of the playlists on Spotify.
Nice.
And the trick was she searched for T. Polachek
Really?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
with,
Yeah, because you're the
I
creator.
think it was T. Polachek with no space in between the T and the P.
Yeah, I think that's my username, and
Yeah.
I do share them through my account, so that does make sense.
Yeah, she found them like a week or two ago. And she's like, "Oh my God, I found them," because we've been on an 18-month quest to find the playlist.
Yeah, although doesn't it make more sense that searching the title would get you the place?
You would think, but I'm not an algorithm writer, so I don't want to throw shade on those people and whatever the hell is they do, the voodoo they do every day. But yeah, I was just befuddled that I could not find them, and I said she found them like a week ago.
All right, so
Okay,
that'll be part of our closing from now on. Is you
right.
can search Third Song In or TPOLACEK. You can also, by the way, find a link to all of our playlists, the season-long playlist and the special playlist. We have links on the website at thirdsonginpodcast.com. That's an easy way to, first of all, drive traffic to our website and then go out and listen to the playlist.
You betcha.
We also have some social media presence. You can find our Facebook page, our Instagram, and our Blue Sky account. They're all out there. Please follow those as well. And those are good places to look for links, not only to all things Third Song In, but also to the events and shows and products that our guests have out there in the internet.
Tom and I do a blog each week. We take turns. You can find it on our webpage, thirdsonginpodcast.com. There's a link to the latest blog right there on the front page. You can also subscribe to our blog on Substack and get those emailed to you every Friday morning. Don't have to even do anything. Just open your email, read the blog, keep us happy.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that we get hundreds of views of the blog through Substack. Very proud of that, and we want to keep that up, so we'll continue to be writing the articles and putting them out every week. This is a good time now to extend our thanks to everyone who's been listening to us over the last 2 years. This is our season finale. We're going to take a break of just a week, and then we'll be back with season 10, leading up to our 100th episode. Chris and I did this as a lark and really an excuse to get together and shoot the shit and occasionally talk to our old friends. And we've been doing it for 2 years now, and we're having a blast. So thank you to everyone who's given us just enough support to keep going. And please continue and let other people know.
personally thank Jope because we know that he listens every week, reminds me when I make mistakes, which is good, keeps me humble. With this growing audience of ours, I got to stay humble.
Yeah, because your biggest problem is your humility. You don't have
I
enough
know.
humility.
I don't have any humility. I'm a cocky bastard.
The king of self-deprecation.
Yes. All right. With that being said, you've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thanks for listening.
How do you balance out not liking Adam Sandler, but being cracked up by a T-shirt with 4 cats in a car saying, "Let's go get tacos"? When he was talking about that T-shirt, I was like, Billy Madison would have worn that T-shirt if it existed.
We're gonna do it.
Chris left.
Yeah, he's just gone.
Where'd he go?
He might have just passed out. Sometimes he just loses consciousness.
I had
Oh,
to
there he
pee.
is.
Oh, there he is.
I like the way you ran back. It was like a game show host. You good for the cold
Well-
open?
No, not really.
All right. Cool. You good to record? Fuck off.
It's our season finale. What a better way to talk. Well, God, I suck.
Yeah,
Took me
there it was.
Took me 5 words.
You blew it.
That's it. We're done. Sorry, Joe.